This is Brave by Design, Episode 1, on the myth of the too much woman. Welcome to Brave by Design. I'm your host, Laura Khalil. I'm an entrepreneur, coach, and speaker. I love thinking big, exploring the power of personal development, and sharing the best strategies from thought leaders and pioneers in business to empower ambitious women and allies to bravely rise and thrive. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Brave by Design. I am so excited to be here with you. We are just into the second week of January 2020, a whole new decade. And I have felt so inspired to start this podcast as a branch of what I love to talk about and what I love to research and share sort of the best with you. For those of you who are new to me, I would love to spend some time on this episode introducing who I am, why I do what I do, and giving you some inspiration and ideas to move forward with. So my name is Laura Khalil. I work today as an executive coach and keynote speaker and now podcast host. But my life started out actually quite differently. I don't know anyone who graduates from college or university and the first thing they think to themselves is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be an executive coach and I'm going to go work with the heads of industry, helping them figure out their leadership stuff. Pretty much doesn't happen that way. So I'll tell you how I came up through the ranks to do what I do. I actually am a storyteller by trade. I worked in marketing and communications early on in my career. That's where I began, and I started my career in technology in Silicon Valley. I was young, I was bold, I was determined, I was ambitious. And I had always been told by my parents who were immigrants that if I wanted to get ahead, I would have to do that by really acting with a lot of ownership over my projects. My dad always said to me, Laura, I want you to go into work and act like you own the place, because that level of ownership, that level of accountability is what's going to help people trust you and help you to rise within organizations. And so I did. I would go into these board meetings often as the only woman. And if you are in technology, you know what those rooms look like. It's often a bunch of guys and maybe a couple of women there. And I would advocate for my projects. And after doing this for a while, a funny thing happened. My boss came to me and he said, Laura, I have some feedback for you. And I said, okay, what do you got? And he said, well, I've been hearing from guys in the boardroom that you're kind of intimidating them. So we're going to need you to soften your language. And, maybe if you could just smile more, that would really help. I mean, you can imagine how shocking and upsetting this can be to hear, that you are just too much. They can't handle you. And what shocked me more than anything was I didn't understand why I was being given that feedback when I was acting just like the guys. So I couldn't actually change my personality. I couldn't change who I was. I would try, but then people would say, hey, you're acting weird. I thought, well, yeah, it's because you told me that I'm too much. And eventually I ended up getting laid off from that company in part because I just could not be nice enough and I couldn't smile enough and soften my language. And I was really dejected by that. I was extremely upset because I'd invested so much. And so I'd go to the next company and I'd go to the next company and I'd go to the next company. And I would keep hearing this refrain that, if you've ever been afraid or you've known a woman in the office who you label as the bitch, she's, very determined, she's very bold, she's really a go-getter, she's unafraid, and then we sort of turn on her. That's who I felt that I was. And so I ran through my career for a number of years. It actually took 6 years of me hitting my head against this wall in full-time employment in Silicon Valley until 2013. And in 2013, I said, Laura, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. And at that point, I was actually getting yet another layoff. I had been collecting what I like to call an, unofficial PhD in getting laid off. And I said, all right, enough is enough. I am the common denominator in this challenge I'm having. So the only thing I can do is figure out a way to change my circumstances and change my outlook to thrive. Now, one of the things that I had always dreamed of doing was starting my own business. I'd always been really scared to do it, very unsure of myself, but it had always been in the back of my head. And so I said, well, this has got to be it. What other time am I going to do this? And so I knew my marketing stuff. I knew technology very well. I knew how to speak to developers very well. That was my expertise. And I knew that my personality just really wasn't well suited for the types of companies that I had been working with. So I got laid off from my last job. And I said, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go create that website. I'm going to go change my title on LinkedIn. And I'm telling everyone I know that I am a developer marketing consultant. And I did. Over the course of a weekend, I just pulled myself up by the bootstraps. I said, listen, I'm not going to change personality-wise, so something else in my environment has to change. And I put myself out there. And what actually ended up happening is sort of even beyond my expectations at the time. I ended up building a very successful consulting business. Actually, within the first 6 weeks of launching the business, I got my first Fortune 500 client. And I remember walking to go meet them for the interview and being really nervous and really scared and thinking, okay, Laura, you've got to do this. You know your stuff. And just be yourself, because you can't be anyone but you. And I realized after I got that client, and because I got that client, that all of the traits that had penalized me in full-time employment were actually my greatest assets as an entrepreneur. Because in one setting, I was too much, but in the other setting, I was a real leader. And so I ended up building a very successful developer marketing consulting business, working with some of the largest brands in the world on global initiatives. It was fun, it was exciting, and I felt so understood and appreciated by my clients. I ran that business for a number of years, and as I would run it, I'd have, other women coming to talk to me, or I'd be speaking at conferences about my experience. And I realized that you don't need to quit your job if you don't want to be successful. You don't need to quit your job to be yourself. And so as I began to learn more about human behavior and really devour that topic and study that topic, I began to coach more individuals on how to really be successful wherever they are in their life. And today, my business has transitioned into from going and telling those developer marketing stories to actually helping individuals who are in leadership or aspire to leadership to rewrite the stories that they live by. And so it's been a really exciting full circle moment. A lot of my clients are in tech. And so I love to go back into that world now and be an ally and advocate for men and women who do want to thrive, who do recognize that there's work to be done on both sides. If you have ever felt like you are the too much woman or the too much person, maybe you fear that you have been labeled a bitch. Maybe you fear that you have been labeled difficult. Remember that for some people, you're too much, and for other people, you are just right. So whether you are within an organization or you are an entrepreneur and you're working through this, find your allies. Find your advocates, especially within corporate. Go find those sponsors who believe in you, because we can't do this alone. And one thing I say to women quite a bit is, you do want to find people who can ally with you and advocate with you laterally, but also vertically. So you want to look at people who are above you in the organization. Women have a tendency to go talk to their peers, and that's great and helpful, but we also need individuals who are above us, who can really help advocate for us and our programs. And in those meetings, when it gets tough, to back you up. So, as I said, we're launching this podcast. It's right around second week of January. And I want to let you know about something I have coming up. I'm kicking off the Brave by Design Masterclass in early February. This is for men and women who, may feel a little stuck, bored, or not sure what you're going to do with the year or decade ahead. Perhaps you have some ideas of where you want to go and what you want to accomplish, but it could seem completely pie in the sky to you right now, or you're just sort of confused and you haven't put any work towards it, and maybe you're not even sure where to start. So the masterclass is working directly with me in a group format over a couple of sessions to develop the clarity you're seeking and the action plan to get you there. If that sounds good to you, I'm going to be revealing more about the program in upcoming episodes, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Force of Badassery, or find me on LinkedIn where I will be announcing the program. This is a small group program. We are only going to take a few people for the program launching in February, so stay tuned, and I'll be revealing more about that in a couple of weeks. And it's funny because I purposefully position the masterclass after we get through all of this New Year's resolution BS. As some of you may know, the research shows 80% of New Year's resolutions are abandoned by February. These resolutions are often knee-jerk reactions. I want to lose weight. I want to start eating better. I want to go to the gym. And what happens? They drop off. So this is not about resolutions. The masterclass is really perfect for those nagging thoughts that you've had or dreams you may continue to see surface over and over, but you don't know what to do with them. And they just kind of keep streaming in and out of your consciousness. If you have felt like that and you have felt like you need clarity and you need an action plan moving forward, the Brave by Design Masterclass is really going to help you. So stay tuned for more about that. And that's it for our first episode. I want to thank you for joining me, and remember to subscribe through your favorite app so you can stay up to date. And I would love your review. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and comment on Apple Podcasts. You can also keep in touch with me online. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram at Force of Badassery. All that information will be available in the show notes. Until next time, stay brave.